bringing the people behind our food to life.
So today we're going to learn about yogurt. Culturing dairy is as old as people have been drinking milk, and every culture has its own form of sour milk, which is kind of what's amazing about cultured dairy is that it's regional, it's seasonal, and traditional people knew the value of when to sour it and why. It's pretty much the oldest form of food preservation that we know, and it's just as simple as letting wild bacteria act on food to change it into something that will last a little longer. Some of the cultures I wanted to show you are Vili, Pima. You've probably heard of some like kefir or sour cream, creme fraiche. These are all just different regional strains of the same bacteria that are going to act a little bit differently for texture and flavor, but are otherwise just sour milk in a different stage. So making yogurt is really just heating it slightly and then adding culture and allowing that to act on the milk. By doing that, this slight fermentation, it breaks down the milk proteins we know as casein and the sugars called lactose and make them just a little bit more digestible. In doing so, it replaces a lot of the live enzymes that would be killed during pasteurization so that you're able to absorb more of the calcium and minerals that are present in this food. In addition to all that wonderful nutrition absorption, it also helps build immunity by replacing beneficial bacteria and helps prevent bone loss. So the simplest tools you need are a good pot, some fresh milk, and a thermometer beyond your regular culture. And really that's all you need. We're going to make about a quart-sized batch. So first we're going to measure out a quart, which is 4 cups. This milk is a non-homogenized milk, which means the cream or the fat will rise to the top. That's the clumpy bits you see. It's nice because when it hasn't been homogenized, it hasn't forced the fat to exist sort of simultaneously with the water particles. So it looks a little strange, but it will all blend up nicely. From here, we'll just take it to the stove. We need to bring it to about 86 degrees. We're not pasteurizing it again, although traditionally people would assume that any time a milk has been exposed to air that it's considered raw again and that you would repasteurize it, but there's really no need to heat treat it that extremely. We're just bringing it up to about 86 degrees, which is enough to make it a nice environment for the bacteria to really flourish. Bacteria really love about a temperature gradient of 70 to 100. That's where they really thrive. So that's all we're trying to create. So we'll get this going. Just going to stir it up a little to try to get some of these fat particles more exposure to the heat. You can really use a lot of cultures. Some people like to use what's called a mesophilic culture. It just means it's a quick setting culture, like this Yogurmet is one I really like to use a lot. It's a powdered culture, but the great thing is once you've made your first batch of yogurt, you can use part of it as a starter for your next batch in your next bit of milk as well. There's no reason to have to start it over every single time. So this is enough for 2, but we're only going to need 1. Just get this ready. All right, so let's check our milk temperature. Over here, you can see that a lot of the fat has totally melted and is starting to float on the surface. That's good. Let's check the temperature. It's just about there. And we're there. So I'm just going to take this off of the stove to cool for a moment. You want to bring it down to what a lot of people say is blood warm. Kind of just the temperature of your skin would be perfect for adding cultures. Right now, it's just a little too warm. So we'll leave this to cool for a moment, and as soon as it gets down to about 70 degrees, we'll be ready to add our culture. So now that it's had a chance to cool to about 70 degrees, we're ready to add our culture. So this is very simple. We're just going to dust it in and make sure that it's been added really well. For most folks that don't have a yogurt maker or a Yogotherm at home, you'll just want a mason jar. And we'll keep the temperature alive in the oven by just leaving the oven light on. So all you need to do is take our actively cultured milk, and we're going to pour it carefully into a mason jar. And you'll definitely miss some on the counter too. Okay, from here, catch that. All you need to do is add your lid, and then we'll stick it in the oven. So once you've let it sit overnight, that's all the culture really needs, is about 8 to 12 hours. So doing it before bed is a really good measure of knowing it'll be ready when you wake up. So we'll just take this out of the oven. Check it out. Oh, that's good. You can see, pour some in here, it's definitely thickened up. Some of the fat is still on the surface. It hasn't quite curdled. You could blend it again if you really want a smooth texture like the kind you get in stores. But right now it's exactly where it needs to be. Good and sour, a little bit of tang. It's just right. So the next step we're going to do is making Greek yogurt, which really is just one more step beyond what we've already done. We're just going to take our beautiful yogurt, strain it very gently overnight again, and then you'll have a thicker yogurt that's more of a spreadable cheese-like yogurt. So to do that, I need a few extra tools. You'll want a fine mesh strainer or a colander just as a base. This is another version of a fine mesh strainer or straining cloth. You can find these at brewing supply shops. They're often like $7. You can wash them in your machine. They're really nice to have around. I usually just rinse them and dry them and use them over and over again. So having this over the bowl, what you're basically doing is just straining out the whey that's creating the liquid in your yogurt. And by doing that, what's left is mostly just the milk proteins. So, I'm just going to pour this in. Cover it up, and then stick it in the fridge overnight. It doesn't need to be covered any more than this, and it doesn't need to be weighted. The whey will drain out into this bowl, and you can use that for a lot of other things. Homemade sodas, soups, cheese making. It's nice just to have around. So we'll just put this in the fridge to drain overnight and check it tomorrow. So now that this has had a chance to sit overnight and drain, we'll open it up and you can see it's gotten much thicker, shiny. The texture on that is so thick. And underneath, you can see all the whey that we've collected. And that whey is something that you'll be able to use, like I said before, for homemade sodas, put it in your soups. You can use it to ferment salads quickly. It's really a wonderful thing to have in your kitchen. So now that this is just a plain thickened yogurt, remember this can be used in place of all kinds of cheese and cream and eggs in your casseroles. It's a great base for sauces, and flavor it however you like. Use honey or jam, whatever you enjoy. Really, the texture is amazing. This is called a Greek yogurt, but another name for it is yogurt cheese because it is considered a spreadable yogurt. I really love strawberry jam since it's strawberry season. It only seems appropriate to set it up like this. Oh, that's beautiful. Colors are so vibrant. So now you know how to make a very easy yogurt at home. This is going to get you started, and who knows where you'll go next. Cultured dairy is not complicated. You can use this process for pretty much any version of it. Like I said, you're just experimenting with textures, flavors, a little bit of sourness, and go.
They're a more personable cow. They're inquisitive, they're curious, they want to be around you, and they're smaller and they're easier to manage.